Hello, everyone. Welcome to Waterside Chats, joined by Ghassan Korban, the Executive Director of the New Orleans Sewage and Water Board, and, of course, Dr. Maurice Sholas, who is a board member. Now, Ghassan, I've got to say, when you started, over 6 years ago?
Yep, September 2018.
The Sewage and Water Board was broken. It was facing bankruptcy. And every time it rained hard, people would race out to move their cars. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. And the question was always, are the pumps working? Are the pumps working? Thankfully, we have seen improvements. But give me an idea, Dr. Scholes. How would you describe the Sewage and Water Board back then?
So back then, it was a series of catastrophes and excitements. And not in a good way.
Exactly.
It felt like we were on a roller coaster ride and we wanted to get off.
And in fact, when you were asked to be on the board, what did people ask you?
If I was insane. I was approached by some of the mayor's team and said, you're in District C. That's a pretty strong district that has a very active base of people. Would you consider serving? And I said, sure, I'll consider it, and talk to some people in my kitchen cabinet, if you will, and they all said universally, say no. But like the hero that I am in my own mind, I ran towards the fire rather than away from it.
And that's exactly what you did, Ghassan, because you kind of looked askance at this as well.
Oh, I sure did. I mean, I did a lot of homework. I did a lot of research about what I'm getting myself into. And I wouldn't call myself a hero, but I was insane enough to take on the challenge. And I have to say that I'm very thankful for Dr. Scholes for saying yes, you are one of my heroes. And he symbolizes engagement and care about the city. And that's why he took on that messy role, to be honest with you.
And in fact, that's what we all need to do.
Absolutely.
We need to face the challenge and do what we can to help. So you have been here for a little over 6 years. What do you consider your major accomplishment?
Well, I mean, in general terms, I think just turning a utility that was struggling into a more stable utility. Now people look at us and believe that if we say we're going to do something, we will deliver. I'm not so sure that was the case in 2018 or before. So it's just the image of the utility and the brand is changing and will continue to change for the better.
So wait, let's just review some of the things that you've done. You have replaced 100 miles of transmission mains, and we're going to touch on this at length in a moment. Almost eliminated all backlog of pavement repair. And let me tell you, that was a real pain. All of that pavement repair, all of the streets torn up, that was really a pain. The smart metering program, which takes care of those crazy bills, and also 2 new water towers so that we're not going to get these boil water advisories as often. And the lead awareness program, Dr. Scholes, we're going to talk to you about that in a moment. But that $350 million power complex is a game changer. Explain.
Well, all of these projects are game changers. And when you list them, it's a reflection of how many challenges our utility and our city has. Right. You just don't know where to start. And that's what overwhelms people typically. But what we did is we prioritized and we took on multiple fronts. We listened to people and we set out a strategy to tackle those.
And that's really where the board came involved, too.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have to have a game plan because it was so huge.
Yes, as a board member, one of the things I'm most proud of is I wasn't the only one that said yes.
Right.
And so rather than having a group of people that were rubber stamps or a group of people that were passively in the room, we were all active, involved, informed, and really, really checks and balances to what the administration wanted to do and what the leadership of the agency wanted to do.
That's great.
Yeah. People do not understand the value of having that board not only hold us accountable, but also giving us the support and the encouragement at a time where you need it, where people are questioning your decisions and your strategy. The board comes and really stands behind you, sometimes blocks for you, and pushes you forward. And you can't overstate how important that relationship is.
Because they're in the community.
Absolutely.
So they're getting the feedback, and they are giving the public feedback as well, which is important because people don't realize how much has been accomplished. But wait, the $350 million complex. So that is going really into operation height of hurricane season.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the public is truly going to see what you have done. Okay, so give me the 1, 2, 3. You've got the dedicated substation.
Right. So basically what the power complex will do for the city for the next 50 years is give them the peace of mind. Because when you look back at the 2017 flood event, we didn't have any power. The pumps were working, but they didn't have power to make them work. So they were ready, they were available, but we didn't have the power to power those or drive those pumps. Now with this new power complex, which is two systems standing by each other, supporting each other, creating redundancy, you have a substation, you have modern turbines that can, either system can provide ample power to supply any amount of power that all of our pumps need in a peak demand. So that peace of mind will be taken for granted eventually because people do not have to worry about do we have power to drive the pumps to pump the water.
And what many people may not realize, of course, is that we've got these 100-year-old pumps, and they take 25 hertz cycle power,
Right.
whereas Entergy puts out 60. So you have to have that frequency changer in order to make those pumps work.
Absolutely. And part of the power complex is 3 large frequency changers with the redundancy with them, with the number itself. We only need 2 at any given time for peak demand. So there's a third one just in case that will allow us to take again, plenty of power from the substation, change that frequency, and drive any of the pumps that we need.
Okay. One of the problems, I know you hear about this, Dr. Scholes, people complaining about their bills. You know, a little old lady lives in a house with her cat. It's a small house, and she gets a $1,000 bill. Have you heard this, Dr. Scholes?
Oh my gosh, how many times?
What are the stories?
The stories are people that live in a small house. They only live in a house seasonally, and they spend most of the year somewhere else. They're opening up a new business, and the new business can't get started because there's a backlog. You know, there are so many things. The other part that a lot of people talk about is these complexes that are owned by one owner, but multiple people live in there, and they don't have separate water meters. So if the owner isn't responsible to the agency, and the agency takes any action, all these people who have nothing to do with it get their water turned off for a problem. So there's a real issue with the bills, not just about accuracy, but also about who's responsible for them and what happens when they're not responsible.
So what's happened to prevent that from occurring in the future? Ghassan?
Well, we have a system that we are developing as we speak. We are installing or changing all the legacy meters to what we call smart meters or automated meters. We have 92,000 in the ground out of about 140,000. Well on our way to complete the full installation by the end of this year. So it's a tremendous game changer for us. The consistency will be there, the accuracy will be there, timeliness will be there. We're going to have a way for people to monitor their own consumption.
They can log on.
Absolutely. They will be able to flag automatically any unusual consumption, maybe related to a leak. In the system itself, we will have pressure detection where we will know if the pressure is dropping in a certain geographic location. We can respond faster. So just total game changer from the quality of service that we're providing our customers, and that's exactly what they need. We've acknowledged this issue from day one, and we've been working so hard on, making a huge difference. Obviously, it required a lot of funding, which we had to be creative to find $67 million to build the smart meter program for our city.
And in fact, you were close to bankruptcy, so money was hard to find. How much in debt was the Sewage and Water Board of New Orleans?
Well, when I took office, we were badly in debt. Some contractors were walking off their projects because they were not getting paid. And, I'm going to share one tidbit or caveat here is that this is a city of about 380,000 people, but we also serve 15 to 17 million tourists every year.
Right.
So our system is designed to accommodate those ups and downs or peaks and valleys in terms of demand and what have you. So one key funding mechanism that was created by our current mayor, Cantrell, was the fair share, where we went to the tourism industry and we said, you need to help us with some funding.
Step up.
Absolutely, because we're helping you be one of the the best destination in the world,
Right.
and we do it because there's infrastructure that supports it. So we were able now to bring about $20 to $25 million annually. That helped us now turn the ship around in terms of having a steady
Income.
flow of revenue that allow us to plug a lot of funding gaps and do things like you talked about the paving cuts, the
Thank
smart meter,
goodness.
the power complex. All of those projects have been able to be supported and funded, not solely, but significantly by the fair share. That was a turning moment for us.
So one of the other problems, those storm drains and the drain lines attached to the storm drains, something like 72,000 storm drains or catch basins, and a lot of them haven't been cleaned since Katrina.
Mm-hmm.
And when the city flooded, the Sewage and Water Board was often blamed, but in many cases, the water wasn't going through the catch basins or the storm drains because they were stopped up.
Mm-hmm.
So the city was in charge of those storm drains. Now you are.
Yes, we are, and we're very excited about that responsibility. And I have to maybe, remind people, when we were responsible and still responsible for the canals, we took charge of cleaning those canals. And
Right.
I don't know if some of you recall where
I
we
remember.
snatched a car out of a canal
Several.
that
Several,
stayed there, had been there since Katrina.
Wow.
So we did our part. So we are not the issue in terms of, or the bottleneck, so to speak. But we knew that there were issues in the minor drainage system. So now we're going to take the same approach. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to be very strategic and intentional about where to go first. And we have enough funding, not what we wanted initially, but we have a substantial amount, about $18 million for 2025, that will allow us to have a hybrid model where we can outsource some of the work. We can build up a drainage maintenance unit in-house,
Right.
and then be able to respond to the calls that we will obviously very likely to receive. But we're going to attack the problematic catch basins and leads based on historic data that we gathered from the city in terms of 311 calls, and just to have a big
And where it
database
floods.
where it floods, and
Right.
so we're gonna have to be very systematic about our approach.
So you got $18 million for this year. Will you get more money next year? That may be you.
So I think part of one of the things I want to make sure we underscore here is we're talking about serving the city, but we're also talking about serving people.
Right.
What Ghassan is glossing over here is the fact that we are an employer that employs ex-offenders. We are an employer that employs people that don't have all the education they need when they start as they get when they finish.
Right.
We are a pipeline to the middle class for lots of citizens.
Oh,
and so when he talks about money coming in to allow us to bring services into the agency, he's talking about jobs.
Right.
When he's talking about how science impacts regular people, he's talking about STEM, where our
Yes.
kids can learn. All of our universities take advantage of this. So the Sewage and Water Board just doesn't do a material job at providing clean drinking water and providing safety with drainage. We provide education, we provide opportunities, we provide jobs, and we provide infrastructure for real people and families.
I love that.
Amen to that. And
Amen.
I have
Yes,
to, I have
amen.
To, I mean, I love that that perspective, and we've held 2 job fairs at the convention center last 2 years, and they had been so successful. People were lining up to come in and sign up, fill out applications. We were hiring people on the spot. We had a one-stop shop, so to speak, where we could interview you, help you with the application, do a drug test, all on the spot, and then you leave the building with a job.
That's
and
incredible.
And this is quality of life that we can play a role in.
Yeah. Not only quality drinking water, but quality life.
Absolutely.
And moving up.
Absolutely.
I love that. Well, this is good news. There is no lead in our drinking water that leaves the Sewage and Water Board. The problem is we've got lead pipes. And the Biden-Harris administration said lead pipes have got to go. They've got to be replaced. So you've taken a step forward. In fact, leading the country, you've gotten money put aside to do those. So what's happening?
Absolutely. Just to be clear, you're right. The water does not leave with any lead in it from our plant. The actual mains don't have any lead. The lead exists in this small service line that carries water from the main to your property.
Okay.
And there's a public portion and a private portion, usually delineated by where the meter is. So our job is to remove all of those lines, the public, our pipe, as well as the private. We call it full lead line replacement. And if we don't do both, we haven't accomplished. It's not a successful replacement. So the initiative we're about to start is to start public outreach, education, to gain the understanding and the willingness of people to allow us on their property, to allow us to complete the job, meaning replace both sides of the lead line, to remove the exposure of lead and remove the danger associated with it.
So let's talk about that danger.
Sure.
Dr. Scholes?
Sure. You know, lead is one of those things that we used to use in a lot of instances because it was a metal easy to work with. It was strong. It could stretch and it could contract. It wouldn't crack as much. So it had a lot of utility from a construction standpoint. We use it in paint because it made the paint brilliant.
That's bad.
But what happens is when children, especially small children, ingest lead, it impairs their ability to have good brain function. Right. It takes points off their IQ. It makes them not able to think well. So here we have something that's a public health issue that can really change the trajectory of a kid's life. So by changing these lines of lead, we're making our kids smarter. Yeah. By changing these lines of lead, we're making our kids healthier, and we're making them better able to be productive members of society.
To have more opportunity.
Yes.
So where are you starting first?
Right. So obviously, this is a 10 to 13-year project. It will take that long to get rid of what we think is about 100,000 locations. Fortunately, you alluded to, we have funding to start the program. We have $86 million.
Where did it come from?
The state revolving fund, and the source of the fund came from the EPA, from, as you mentioned, the Biden-Harris administration. They've allotted that money for us for the single purpose of removing lead lines out of the ground. So we're focusing on schools and daycares now because obviously the concentration of the population that is most susceptible or vulnerable. So we are sending out notices as we speak to give notice that we are about to come in and investigate the material that the line that leads from the main to your property to see if it's lead, and if it is lead, we will replace it at our own cost, and it typically takes less than a day, with some restoration to follow. Following that, with the $86 million, we're going to launch a citywide program, and we're going to focus on the economically disadvantaged communities, people who can't afford doing the work on their own, and we will see how many of those we can do with the $86 million, knowing that there are $66 million in the second tranche that we are competing for, and we're hoping to get as much of that as possible to kind of continue. So we have probably 2 to 3 years worth of work, and with the hopes that we either generate our own revenue to keep the program moving, or the federal government, state government continue to make that a priority and continue to fund it to help us complete the project in 10 to 13 years.
So you are actually doing something at the Sewage and Water Board to help coat the pipes, isn't that correct?
Absolutely. It's a universal practice where you add chemicals to the water to increase the coating of inside the lead line. You create a film. We use lime in this case to just kind of create that barrier and reduce, doesn't eliminate 100%, but reduce the leaching of the lead into the water.
That's good.
That's why it's important. We say to people, if water is sitting in your pipe for more than 6 hours, you need to flush your system, especially in the morning. Flush the toilets, run your water faucet 3 to 5 minutes. Just get rid of any potential of or possible leaching that may have occurred overnight, and then the water is safer to drink. Always use cold water, and preferably we encourage the use of a filter that actually filters lead. That's the safest mode of protecting yourself and your family until the line is replaced. Again, 10 to 13 years is a long time.
It is.
So if you're the last line, 13 is a long time. So in the meantime, there are measures that you can take to protect yourself by merely investing in a pitcher that's certified for filtering lead.
You also have a map so that people can check and see if they likely have lead. I noticed that a lot of them say unknown.
That is right. We use machine learning to create a model, short of digging 140,000 locations to be 100% certain.
Right.
We had to kind of use records and documents and just institutional knowledge, the ages of the neighborhoods or the homes, and come up with a model. We're going to continue to tweak and refine that model as we go. And we suspect that the 100,000 are a combination of certain lead, like 100% sure, and then the unknown. The only safe way to approach this is to assume
that it's got lead.
If you don't know it's not lead, you have to assume it is lead to be safe.
So we had a lot of crumbling pipes in the city, a whole lot. You have replaced 100 miles of water line. That's incredible.
It's incredible, but it's also a must. When you have a system where a third of the pipes in the ground is 100 years or older, half is 80 years or older, you must keep this up.
And that's why you've had all of these pavement repairs, because those pipes are being replaced.
They keep breaking, so you fix a main, and a repaired main is just still an old main that is susceptible. So while I'm happy that we've replaced 100 miles, we need to keep that up.
How much more has to be replaced?
At least 500 miles.
500 miles.
Yes.
That's the name of a song, right?
That's jobs, though, Marty. It's jobs.
That's jobs.
And,
yes,
and,
you're
and it's
right.
a jobs. And the other thing is these are skilled jobs that pay good wages. This isn't just an entry-level work. And those guys and gals that are out there doing the work are tremendous. Like, I don't know if people listening have had the experience of just having people work outside their house, but they're real people that are real New Orleanians that are kind. And they care because it doesn't just affect them in abstract, it affects them personally.
So be kind to those people who are working the roads, because they are fixing your neighborhood, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. So I'm sure you heard all kinds of horror stories about the main breaking, and you've had complaints, right?
Yes. You can't do anything without water. We can't have businesses. You can't shower. You can't do much of anything. So really the heartbeat of a city is its ability to have potable water and power. Yeah. And we are being responsive to that. And we're doing that with talent right here in New Orleans.
Right. So you pushed for a fee to maintain and upgrade critical structures within the Sewage and Water Board. It always fails. Why?
Yeah, we have a history specifically with the stormwater fee where it comes to the forefront. It's discussed. It's considered, but it always fails to succeed and be made. I mean,
people know.
I think it's just a challenging scenario where policymakers have to impose yet another fee on an already challenged and disadvantaged community. But what we're developing as we speak is a structure that really adds nothing. I don't know if many people may not realize that you, through paying your taxes, there are 3 millages as part of your property tax that support drainage today. It's not a sustainable model or fair model because it exempts 40% of the properties in the city. So there are a lot of people in the city who receive the service. We drain their water, but they don't contribute. So while people are concerned about imposing another fee, we're going to create a structure that doesn't add any more burden or any cost to you because you're already contributing through millages. Right. But we want to bring into the fold the properties that do not pay and make it more fair and increase the revenue so we can support both the major drainage system as well as the minor drainage system. So the most sustainable structure. 2,000 cities across the nation have it and successfully implementing it and using it for supporting the stormwater
So you
system.
would like to see that?
I would love to see that. I think the time has come, and I'm leaving with a feeling positive that 2025 or 2026 rather will be the year of the stormwater fee for the city.
So May 2nd, your final day. I know. How do you feel?
It's mixed feelings. I mean, I've loved every minute, and this was probably by far the most challenging task I've get involved with, but it's been rewarding. It's been an awesome journey, but I'm looking forward to the next chapter.
Well, wait, let's save the next chapter.
Okay.
That's going to be at the very, very end.
Okay.
Tell me, is there any one thing, 15 things, 100 things you would still like to have done in your time here?
Oh, my goodness, yeah. I wish I was younger when I took this job.
Yeah, you and me both, right? I wish I were.
I mean, I think of all the things that are yet to be accomplished, and I'm very confident they will be. I'm kind of jealous that I'm not going to be part of that. I mean, continuation of the water main replacement is key. The water quality study that we're doing that's going to bring to light a need for a new facility that can handle the saltwater intrusion, the forever chemicals, just a higher quality water. Even though what we have now is high standard, but it could even be better. It's an endless list of things that the city needs. But we started. We've proven that we can execute, and one small step at a time, and never relent, don't stop. Just keep moving forward, and things will get better and better.
And I think that's what people need to realize. Major steps have been taken, and you will see a dramatic improvement once that big power complex goes on board, and that's going to be at the max of hurricane season. Dr. Scholes, what would you say is Ghassan Korban's greatest accomplishment here in New Orleans?
His greatest accomplishment is competence and confidence. He's an engineer. I was not part of the team that brought him on board, but I was raised by an engineer, my dad, and I know that group of people.
I do too. I was raised by an engineer.
And I think there were some things that we worked on in terms of soft skills with my engineer colleagues to say, okay, you got to go to that and shake those hands. But what we didn't have to do was explain the infrastructure, explain prioritization, explain complex systems. So his legacy is bringing one of unadulterated, unbridled competence to a system that was chaotic. And that sounds like a small thing, but that gives everybody reassurance that we're not getting taken for a ride. We're not getting told something that's not true, and we're not getting someone that is not informed about what's going on around him.
That's wonderful.
Thank you, Dr. Scholes.
So what are you looking for the next generation in a successor? I mean, he's hard to replace.
Oh, some shoes will never be filled. We'll just get different shoes.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
But the other important thing that he's leaving us with is a job that's attractive.
Right.
Because he's taken us from where we were to where we are, lots of people that have talent in his field and in his industry are looking at New Orleans as a destination where they can go and make the next chapter of their life's work.
Yeah.
We have internal candidates that are excited and well qualified. We have external candidates that are excited and well qualified. And that's something we didn't have when we did previous searches, as I understand it.
Right. So what do you want to tell the people of New Orleans, Ghassan?
Oh my goodness. I would tell people of New Orleans to continue to demand more because they deserve more. Maybe be patient with the pace because
Right.
it does require time to turn the city around in terms of infrastructure.
Right.
The numbers are staggering in terms of what needs to be done. But we will do them. We will continue to do them. I'm very confident I'll be succeeded by a equal or better executive director who's going to keep the momentum moving. I would tell my successor to continue to be transparent. Don't hide anything, because I think that was one of my most effective approaches in the city. Recognizing what the challenges are, what the issues are, own them, but also share them with your customers, because your customers need to know where you are and what
you're facing.
what you have,
Yeah.
what you're using to serve them, and continue to provide them with essential services. So I'm gonna miss the people of the city. I'm gonna miss the city itself and the culture and everything that it brings. The uniqueness of it. Just when I tell people I live in New Orleans, their faces light up, their eyes get wider. You're like, you do? Yeah, that I will miss for sure.
So what's the one most thing that you will miss in New Orleans? The food, the festivals, the people. Leave out the people because I know you're going to miss the people.
Yeah, I think the food for sure.
Oh, yeah.
The food is, I'm much bigger than when I first started. That's a good reflection, great reflection on the cuisine of the city for sure.
Yeah. And so what, after 40 years of public service, what are you going to do next?
Well, first and foremost, I'm going to be in the city where my kids live. I have 4 children and 4 grandchildren, one on his or her way. So I'll have 5 altogether by the time I move back to Milwaukee. And that's where I belong, just because my children are there. So I'm very excited about being, close to them. And what happens after that, is I wouldn't say irrelevant, but is secondary to being close to my family.
I understand completely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dr. Scholes, Ghassan Korban, I've loved visiting with you today.
We do too, and I cannot thank you enough for taking on this role. Those chats have been awesome, bringing to light all the issues that matter to the city in a very positive, informative way, and I cannot thank you enough for that.
Well, we all have to step up, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great to see you. Thank you for joining us today.